Oh, we'll go. We'll at least we'll do an hour. It doesn't matter. I don't care. We'll get a couple on here. We are live coming to you from.
Hashtag that is so.
That's right. I love it. Love it. No, tonight we're going to be going against Great Sports Weekend. FSU playing LSU. I think it was 3-0 when we come in here. Uh, a lot of people doing fantasy drafts tonight, including me, while we'll be doing this. I've already done one before this one, and didn't know until Friday I was in either leagues.
Sounds just like an owner.
Yeah, that sounds like we'll see what happens with those. I'm at my parents' house. No, I did not give up all my cards to start collecting teddy bears. That's my stepmom's. She has actually a very, very nice teddy bear collection. So hard to find and short stuff. And our dogs look pretty good this weekend. We got a Georgia fan here. What's up, Battery?
I tell you who looked good was Carolina and App. That was one hell of a ball game.
Nobody wanted to play defense. It seemed like we were watching the Virginia game, flipping it back. Virginia looked good. Then they made a stupid decision before half to not score and go into halftime because they got the ball back, and then they turned it over, so they didn't score. They tried to give that game away to Richmond, of all places. I think you never give those small schools hope, man. You give them hope, they're not going to go away.
Mm-mm.
You got to put them away early.
Yeah, the South Dakota State game was in black and white.
Yeah, that was 7-2.
7-3.
7-3. We got my dad here.
They had 2 field goals and 2 safeties.
With us tonight, since I'm at the house, I have first pick, Andy. I just was told a little while ago. So if I get quiet, it's because I'm thinking about who I'm picking. What do you want to give me for it, Andy? Let's see. So tonight I wanted to start off. 7-3 with good evening. What's up, Pafalzi? That Iowa game, that was a tough one. They won, but it was a tough one. I want to see how they do against a high-powered offense like
Purdue.
Well, they got to play Cyclones next week. That's gonna be Ryan Leaf. Yeah. And believe it or not, it probably would have been the year that Ryan Leaf, because I was one of the ones that thought, "Hey, Brad, what's up, Brad? I got first pick, buddy. What do you want for it?" So starting the night off, I just want to talk about Panini just for a second here. I bought Panini Wrestling. I know most of y'all don't care. Select, but that whatever it was, it doesn't matter. So you get 2 hits, 3 hits, 2 autos, and a memorabilia card. I got 1 hit. It was Natty, which was very. I love Natalia. She's a great wrestler. And then my memorabilia was Liv Morgan, which is the champion right now for the ladies. Was not bad. And then I had my last pack, didn't get another hit or anything. Got some nice cards. Select is very nice. Kind of middle for wrestling. And got 400 points, Nats, man. 400 points. I slung that thing like a star, like a throwing star. And the thing is, it's like the points wouldn't be bad if you could go on Panini and actually pick something up that was worth getting. They still have the same stuff on there from 10 years ago, man. They got hockey cards from when they did hockey. When was the last time they did hockey? They have baseball cards. They got the stuff. They got Cowboys from when the last time I was on there. They want Cowboys. So why do I want them this time? I was just like, and as much as you pay for that stuff, and I mean, I got it for panini costs, but still, it's not free.
Mm-mm.
You know, and it tells you on the box 2 autos. It doesn't say or points. You know, I wish they get bought out by Fanatics and go away. I really do, because that's just terrible. You know, what do you do at that point? You know, it's just I have about 1,000 points with Panini. Thanks, Panini. You know,
The only panini I know is a sandwich.
I would rather have a sandwich. What's up, Don? What's up, Don? We got Doctor Exclusive. Hey, how long till
Don?
We got Don. We're gonna have to have Exclusive on for hockey preview when that comes around. So
Hockey starts in November.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember when my preseason and all that. My man Doctor, he's in the Toronto area up there. He's my hockey guy. But tonight we want to talk about, if you didn't notice from my title, is players moving. Battery comes up with Carlisle, comes up with some good stuff. Panini's not even a good sandwich. I love a good panini. I ain't gonna lie. But then again, I don't turn away much food. But we're going to talk about players moving, and I really want to get some insight. I'm glad I was with my dad because, you know, this is a phenomenon that we've dealt with in our lifetimes. Mine and Nat's, man. Of course, my dad's, but it didn't start till the 70s with free agency. So it's a little different in the past. But, you know, with Soto's move, I don't know. You get a feeling in the hobby, right, Nats, man? You get this feeling. Do you feel like Soto's quieted down even more, moving off of a bad team to even a good team that's playoff bound or playoff chance, to where you just don't hear much of him at all right now? I mean, he made a great catch for ESPN, but he's not hitting.
And he's made some good hits too. I mean, he's made some good plays. But yeah, I think he's a, you know, that's a bigger market out there. I'm assuming maybe that's got something to do with it. It's just a bigger market. And just, I hate to say smaller fish, but maybe more average fish compared to some of the talent that's on that team.
Well, you know, they're the ESPN game tonight, so they're playing at a decent time for us on the East Coast to see. But the last 2 nights, they didn't play till almost 10 o'clock at night.
10:30.
So it's 10:30 at night. So most of the country don't get to see them.
Yeah, you know, y'all know how it is. You know, it's the California life. So.
Age. Yeah, and even in California, believe me, I lived out there. Baseball out there it has a huge backseat. And, you know, when I lived out there, the Angels winning World Series and all that, that's how long ago it was. And everybody followed the Angels, but it wasn't until the playoffs that anybody cared, you know. And then when that came around, it was USC football time. So, you know, that's it really odd with Freddie Freeman on the West Coast. Yeah, and I can't even really compare that because Freddie Freeman wasn't a darling in the hobby even when he was in Atlanta, being Freddie Freeman there, one of the top players in the league. And the shame is we got Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt both playing in the Cardinals, you know, just tearing it up, and they still don't get any hobby love. You know, we're still talking about the same groups of people.
There is one Soto rookie card slab, PSA 9s and 10s at my card shop that I go to now in China Grove, North Carolina, and they're still sitting there, and they're not outrageously priced. They're priced under eBay, and they're not moving.
Right.
Which is unusual. I mean,
I know the last few shows I went to, like, Sotos are out there. You just don't hear people asking about them. You know, us in Carolina, I mean, you're a Nats fan, and there's Nats fans here, and Soto's big around here. But I don't hear much anymore. I don't even hear the whatever you want to. I hate calling them. We're all influenced.
Look at it the other way around.
All right,
this is the way it would have worked. First of all, he went to the West Coast.
Right.
So he went the wrong way according to the clock.
Right.
If he'd have been playing for San Diego and had been traded to the Nationals, if he'd have been traded to the Nationals games would have been coming on the West Coast at 4:00 in the afternoon. People could have still seen him. when he goes to the West Coast, it's just the opposite. You have him going from 7 o'clock time slot to 10:30's time slot. I'm 76 years old. I'm in bed by 10:45. So, I mean, and you guys work, so you can't stay up so late. So that's the problem. It's just like Mike Trout. Nobody on the East Coast sees Mike Trout, but Mike Trout's well known, and he's been the MVP and stuff like that for a number of years. Soto hasn't done that yet. He's still a young guy. And so if those cards in that card shop down there in North Carolina were in the shop in San Diego and he'd have been traded the other way, they might have been sold.
Right.
Because he would still be seen because he could be playing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon instead of the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the other way around is like the first thing like people say, you know, for the schedule next year is, I get to see Mike Trout now. Every other year, Trout's going to play in my stadium. So that was one of the selling points where before, you know, you couldn't see him even on TV, but a handful of times because you're on the East Coast I can tell you, I lived in a central time zone and I liked it. It made the times reasonable. But there was times where I couldn't watch all the West Coast games. At least it was an hour earlier for me. They can listen to East Coast games while sitting in traffic in Los Angeles. That's very true. That's 100%, and they do. So you know, I want to say again, we got more people in. Thank you for taking the time to come on and listen to us tonight and watch with everything, with the first weekend of real college football and a good game on ESPN. And please don't dog me too much with my Mets playing bad right now. A couple of bad games. And my dad is here. You call him Mike, Big Mike, Ostrich, whatever you want to call him. He's here just like he just said. He's got 76 years of watching and listening to baseball on the radio. So he's going to throw his 2 cents, and I always listen to it.
Well, when I was a small boy, we didn't have television, so I used to listen to the games on radio, and they had them on there were a lot of night games, but there were a lot of day games also. And if there was push came to shove, they could always do the Cubs because they didn't have lights yet, so all their games were in the day. And when we finally got a television in 1954, I was 8 years old, and the Browns had just moved from St. Louis to Baltimore and became the Orioles. So
right. Wow.
That's what I remember listening to games on the radio when I was a little boy. And then
did you eat you a snack or like a early dinner or anything and sit there and listen to the game, or was that allowed?
Well, in the summertime, we would play outside, and I'd run in the house, and my grandmother would have the radio on, and I'd run in the house and see what the score was, and then run back outside and play, because most of the games were on during the day. And they had some night games. And then I did listen to the Richmond Virginians because we lived not about 20 miles from Richmond. So we listened to the Richmond Virginians. They were the Yankees farm team and the AAA team in Richmond. And that was my favorite team because my mom would take care of me over there once in a while to watch them play. And I'll tell you how old it was. They played the Havana Sugar Kings. They had a AAA team in Havana before Castro. So they had the Havana Sugar Kings, the Buffalo Bisons, Rochester Red Wings. I mean, it was those were the days. They didn't have AAA teams in Charlotte and places like that. It was pretty cool. But I mean, that's the way it was. A lot more laid back then, and I knew everybody's statistics and everything because the players didn't move. The players they couldn't move. There was no free agency.
Yeah.
Unless they were traded, they didn't move. And so you're
getting some feedback on your.
So you brought that up, and I was going to get to that.
Scott, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
You're getting some feedback on your mic, I think.
Still?
You want to back up and see if that does it?
All right, can you hear me now?
It's like ringing. I don't know if anybody else can hear it. It's like ringing.
I don't know. You know, I got an away game today, so we're working with what we got right now. I don't know what else to do, but and a player did move. I mean, Roger Maris moved. And you
Well,
did it.
Kansas, the Athletics traded him to the Yankees because the Yankees, whenever they needed a player, they just traded to Kansas City.
Right. So, sounds like a dog whistle, Bubbles. I hear dog whistle. Well, you're not supposed to hear dog whistles. Things that make you go, uh, you can't really hear. Oh, Reese. Yeah, I don't have but so many outlets. I can't use my mic. I'm using what I have. Let's see here.
There it goes. It's clear now. It's back. It's your mic.
Let me try something here. Does that help at all?
No, and I thought he might turn the sound down. That might work.
Reese, that was funny.
Well, I don't know, Reese. Can you hear me? Can't hear me?
You still hear the ringing.
Yeah, but you got the sound down. It's still ringing.
Now it sounds like a chopper coming in. Get to the choppers. Knowing I love and smell the mornings. Napalm.
Oh, man. Let's see. Echo cancellations on. Let's try this one.
Try talking now.
How about now?
You're loud and clear. Whenever you did, you just picked it.
Yes. Yep. Okay, we're good. Yeah. Well, Brad, that's why I like you more because he's always in charge. So, um, oh, I'm sorry, Paige. All right. Sorry about that. We very rarely have these type of problems. But anyway, so we got Soto, and next year we have a chance with Nolan Arenado. Now he could go somewhere that somebody might actually care. This is called the GOAT by some, not by many, but by some as a joke and others. Uh, but if he goes to a New York team or East Coast, Boston, which I don't think so, Devers, but you know what he's playing in St. Louis now, which is one of the best baseball towns in the country, if not the best baseball town, and he still doesn't get hobby love. I, what he what does he got to do? You know, I is he not very good? If not, dare say maybe Hall of Fame talk afterwards, maybe.
Well, if he doesn't hit home runs, they're going to say it was because of the ballpark.
Right. And that's it. You got David Price, Chris Sale, Jacob DeGrom might not be a Met next year. I see some signs of him maybe not being the same guy, but if he goes somewhere else, Tatis, needless, Acuna, Trout pick something, and then the rookies I saw, J-Rod won't that good. You got some points there, Bobbles. Me and Natsman touched on this well before. It seems like the rookie class is coming on now. Like you have, what's that new young boy that we were watching in Baltimore?
The second
Gunner.
baseman. Gunner.
You got.
He's the youngest man in the majors.
Yeah. Uh, the even though the Nats they beat the Mets twice, they got a good young nucleus. I think these younger players, not all of them could be Soto coming out the gate. We got to give them a little bit of time. Yeah, battery. I'll give you that. Austin Riley should be in MVP talk, and I think he is.
I just had my card shop bought me out of every Austin Riley card I had left.
Right. So, do you think that is because we're in Braves area? Because
Absolutely.
you don't hear him talk nationally. I did not hear a person looking for Austin Riley at the National. Um, and that's a shame because he's so good. If he would have came out and his rookie year and blew it up, maybe it'd be different. And that's what it's like. If you don't have a great rookie year, you kind of get forgotten about, and that's a shame in our hobby because these guys deserve a little bit of that love. Austin Riley is a beast. That's why they let Freddie Freeman walk. They knew they had him across the diamond. And plus, they just brought up somebody, right, this past week or whatever.
God, I can't think of his name.
Williams kid they brought up in center field. He had 3 hits today.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. I mean, sheesh.
Oh, and by the way, Pujols and Judge hit homers again today.
Now there's a digitized rattling.
Yeah, now I'm hearing it. It's real. It's faint.
Okay.
On my side, I don't know about anybody else.
That might be my fan that I'm running in here. I have to run a fan.
It sounds like when Fred Flintstone's on his tiptoes.
That
really,
might
really
be a
fast.
fan going across the mic. I don't know. What are you talking about, Paige? Is that what the sound sounds like? This is gonna be a great hour because this has just been someone sneaking across the border. No, but usually I record. I don't do live. So and I usually bring my laptop, and this time I just brought. I got my microphone, but you don't have enough things to hook it into. It won't recognize it.
I have Brad 867. I think that's been that way for probably about at least easy the last 5 years.
Yeah, baseball's a ultimate regional sport. Basketball is too, more than football. Where I think in baseball, because so many games are played and they're played on your local television station, even with the baseball MLB network that you could pay for like you have in the other sports. And the rest of the nation don't really care until the playoffs for a lot of them. So that is just kind of where we're at with that. I think it's more. I think the people locally really love their games because they still have high. Even with bad teams, the local TV ratings for games are still high. They're not as high as a once-a-week football game, but if you add them together, they're very good.
Look at the Chicago Cubs right there. You can have a losing franchise for decades and still sell out.
Right, and I mean the Pirates do well. He's going to see Pujols. And we're all, I think the whole country, Mike made a great video. I think anybody that loves baseball and knows anything about baseball is pulling for the old man to get to 700. It'd be great for him in the game.
I still don't think he gets enough hobby love.
He doesn't. And I think that, he went to St. Louis and then went to the Angels abyss. It just seems like.
And he's a Hall of Famer.
He's the
automatic
first ballot. Cabrera, another guy, no hobby love, first ballot Hall of Famer. Playing Detroit, just don't. And baseball's a lot to blame with that because they do not push their players, right? Outside of, you don't go buy lids and have baseball players on posters and all that stuff. That is, you're going with Dean and Scott Reindeer. Oh man, that's going to be a fun time. I just think baseball really has a problem of pushing their sport. That and that's no hidden. That's been talked to death. But when it comes for the hobby, I think it's really hard. And this push of rookies, and it just seems like just talking it out with me and you tonight. It's almost like. Well, Austin Riley did not have a great rookie season. He had a good rookie season, a decent one, but he wasn't the guy everybody was talking about. So then he turns around and is putting out an MVP season, and nobody's really, in the hobby.
Here's a question for your dad
Okay.
along those lines. When did you start noticing, it seems like to me back, probably when in your younger days and even in your young, adulthood, you saw baseball players selling candy bars and doing radio commercials or TV ad, or I'm not sure about TV ads, but newspaper ads, tobacco ads, whatnot. When did you see a drop off? And is there a time frame that kicks off in your head now that you're looking back saying, hey, wait, that kind of makes sense. When did you stop seeing MLB stars really being as influential in advertising and commercial?
Well, see, the same thing's happening. Most of the baseball players now are doing local commercials as opposed to national commercials. There's a few that do national commercials. You see NFL players and NBA players all over the place, but baseball is regional. Now, when I was a kid, the other thing that when I was a kid, you saw a lot of ads in newspapers and that, but you don't have 1/8 of the newspapers you had when I was a kid in the 1950s. Newspapers are like the dinosaur; they're just about gone. So that's one thing. The other thing is radio. When it was on, the games were on radio. I remember as a kid, there was a few of the players that had commercials on the radio. But like Babe Ruth, he had candy bar named after him, and then the Wheaties boxes. When I was a kid, the Wheaties boxes they changed the players every year on those Wheaties boxes. They'd have 3 players a year featured on the Wheaties boxes. Then when the TV they had the game of the week on television. There were a few baseball players that did commercials, like for Gillette, razors, shaving. They even had a few do cigarettes because everybody smoked, even the ball players. And so they did that, candy bars, shaving, that type of thing. And then everything a lot of the commercials now are digitalized. So that's changed everything. And I guess I don't pay as much attention to it anymore because there's so many commercials on television that drives me crazy. But
he's the flipper.
I am too. Yeah.
he would hate watching internet TV because you can't flip as much. But yeah. So, and also, I can tell you one thing from that. What is the biggest thing that goes on during the All-Star break? What does everybody get pumped up for now? It's just like the dunk contest, the home run derby, right? So I can tell you what, as a kid, I used to watch old home run derby shows, and I've talked about this before on here with my dad, with his father, while my dad was outside working. I'm inside watching the old home run derbies, and my granddad, and most time it was, Yankees guys or whatever. So we watched it. He told me all about these guys. It was awesome. It was like going back in time for a little kid. And how hard would that be during the preseason to do that with some of the biggest name guys? I talked to Johnny Bench at the National. Johnny Bench had the baseball bunch in the 80s, and he brought on players, and it was a great way to see players from all over the country. And Tommy Lasorda Tommy was being Tommy at the time, and it was a great way to see them there, outside of playing the game and show a little personality. And it's just, it's they don't do anything like that anymore. It's no more this week in baseball. I think they still have it, but it's regional, or you gotta look for it. I think it's on the MLB network.
Everybody's wanting to check. It seems like everybody wants to check. Everybody wants a piece of the pie or something like that.
Yeah, and that's what Johnny Bench said. He said they can't do it because everybody wants too much money to do something like that.
That's right. And the other thing is too. Think about this. At one point, when I was young, They had 3 teams in New York. They had 2 teams in Philadelphia. They had 2 teams in Chicago. They had no teams west of the Mississippi. I mean, there was nobody on the West Coast. So it was a smaller area. And so the players and most of the commercials were done, most of the TV shows were live TV shows in New York. So almost all the players they used in the commercials were either Yankees, Giants, or Brooklyn Dodgers. And then when they moved the Giants and the Dodgers to the West Coast, things changed. And then the Athletics moved from Philadelphia in the 50s, in late 50s, and went out to Kansas City. Because it was the Philadelphia Athletics and the Philadelphia Phillies. The Athletics went to Kansas City, and then they went to Oakland. But, I mean...
Thanks, Brad. I got her.
But that was the... but, I mean, I think that had something to do with it also. I mean, because I remember Mickey Mantle doing commercials. I mean, I just...
But see, the players, they had to make extra money then. I mean, now they do, they can make extra money too. I mean, Trout does commercials. I mean, they all do some commercials. But, it just does, it's not the same personality-wise. And you don't see them go out and do things. And, you see those old clips where they did barnstorming, where they had to, they had to make extra money. And
Yogi
it makes you wonder.
His dad's hardware store in the off season.
It makes you wonder because like you said, it's baseball is regional, and so they're doing those regional commercials for the stores and for the stores and products, and that it's not really national. And somebody like where I'm at, we don't get those regional commercials.
Yeah.
And if it's not on a national level, we don't see it.
Where we live at, it's such a wealth of minor league talent around there. They push the minor leagues now. You can go and meet the players, and they do all this stuff where, especially where you might not get to see them as much as we used to as kids at minor league parks. But, geez, it's a little bit better than the major league parks. It's just a little bit going on. James, welcome, man. This is my father, Mike. I think y'all about the same age. James, met him at the National. He's a Yankee fan, but we don't hold that against him. He's a nice guy.
Not a problem.
He gave me some cool Carters. He gave me some strawberries and stuff, the Darryl strawberries that I've never seen before at the National. So, good guy, very good guy. I think if they did that, it wouldn't matter where players moved because it's part of the industry, the way the sport is. And
you brought that up about their fandom, I guess. What was, it seems like from what I've always seen, and we had talked about this, I think yesterday, was Babe Ruth. I don't know why that's in my head. We know Babe Ruth played for the Red Sox. I mean, he's a good player. Mm-hmm. They liked him, but he didn't have the fans that he had till he went to New York, and I guess became the Bambino.
But the owner for the Red Sox wanted to make a play, so he wanted the money to do a play on it.
Right, he needed the money.
Yeah. So, but then
what would something like that be like today?
Yeah. Well, it would be like when what's-his-face, the old Mets owner, had to get rid of players because, he was going bankrupt and, when he got caught up in that pyramid scheme or whatever.
The Ponzi scheme.
Ponzi scheme, there you go. I couldn't think of the actual term for that one. But, I'm interested to see, because it was rumored, like, Conforto. I know a lot of people probably don't really care, but I'm a huge Conforto fan. He supposedly turned down a 2-year deal with the Astros this week. Now, if he went there and played in started for them and went to the World Series and won this, and he does some of the stuff that he did in New York, but he was overshadowed by some of the other players. Is he, because Alvarez is hurt and some of the other players, they got Mancini, but, it's just, I guess for a long time, since I've recognized
the most talented players are not necessarily the most popular players in the hobby, and not necessarily the most talented players are the most popular players. And I have to thank Carlos a little bit. I got to give him a thank you because I love Trout, and that's what's going to change my mind. But I always said if he retired today, he'd be an automatic Hall of Famer. Well, I think we've been conditioned that way because he's been promoted as the guy. But when you look at his numbers, not necessarily is that true at all.
No, he's MVP for 3 or 4 years in a row. I mean,
but if you look at his numbers, which that's what the Hall of Fame is outside of the MVP awards, he has not put up the numbers to be in with them.
okay, you want to talk about numbers? That's changed too.
Right.
It used to be a guy that hit 310 was valuable. A guy that could bunt and sacrifice somebody to second base was valuable. Now, you swing from the heels, and they don't care how many times you strike out. They don't care. They tell you that we don't care, but if you can hit the long ball every once in a while, that's fantastic. So you have strikeouts, walks, and home runs, and that's the game now.
Yep.
I still don't understand why Roger Maris is not in the Hall of Fame.
Well, if you look at his numbers,
I think he's only missing one award, though, right?
Well, the argument is he wasn't consistent. Like, his best year was the year he hit the home runs. And it's not even close, like a second year.
Well, see, people forget here again. They forget after he left the Yankees, he went to the Cardinals. He was on a World Series winning team with the Cardinals and hit 295 that year.
Yeah, and that was
Thank you.
That was more of what I was getting to. What about Maris? Not that he went to the Yankees, is he left the Yankees, and he still, and people forget that. Not even
They think that's all he played for, and he just
man
disappeared.
loves Maris. He loves Maris for a lot of the same reasons why I love Clemente. But because of that, he knows the history of Maris, and now because of him, I know the history of Maris.
I would put a C note on the table, on anybody's table that's in this chat, that if Roger Maris was playing today and had the same stats, that everybody in the chat would be saying he needs to go in the Hall of Fame.
And
There's
every
not
other
a
team
doubt.
would be trying to get him too.
Yes. Absolutely.
See, I don't know if James. I don't know if James was talking about Maris, but I think he's talking about Trout in the 2000 hits. But Maris was injured too much. Had he played today, they would have allowed him to heal, and he would have played better and longer. You know, that's a lot of.
But you can say that about the game. Look how that's the game back then. You played through the hurt.
Passionate Nats man has been. People are passionate about their players, right? I'm sure if James, we got him on here, and we started talking about Mattingly, because he got passionate with me with Mattingly, right?
And he's another one.
At the time, man. But hopefully, when he gets to the Veterans Committee, he gets put in there, rightfully so.
Probably
Mattingly
one of the best
deserves
first
to be in
basemen
there.
there's been in
Donnie
baseball.
For heaven's sake. He's one of our greats of all time. Hey, Four Leaf, what's up, brother?
So Four Leaf. Look at the
listening
Irish.
to Harold Baines made it. Who knows going forward? Yeah, you're right about that. That changed a lot.
How about Biggio?
Yeah,
that's a good
Biggio
point.
got in for longevity, and I think playing 3 different positions and making an all-star team at all 3 positions. I don't think he won an MVP at all 3 positions, but he made the all-star team in 3 different positions. And he collected so many, longevity got him in. And there's something to be said about that.
I got to ask your dad a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a little, this is topic and off topic too. Pete Rose. Now, Pete Rose, he never bet against his team. He admitted when he did, when he was, I guess, put in a corner. But with the way the world is now, MLB, they're talking about putting a team in Las Vegas. They're letting gambling betting go on teams authorized with commercialization of it as well at the ballpark, during games on TV, that kind of thing. And he's eligible, is he not only as a player for the Hall of Fame, but as a manager too. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But what's your thoughts on Pete Rose?
Well, Pete Rose was one of the top 2 or 3 hitters I've ever seen as far as average is concerned. He was one of the few players of his era. They called him Charlie Hustle for a reason. You see these kids nowadays, they hit a fly ball, they don't even run it out. He was trying to stretch it into a double before the guy caught it. I personally, the way I look at it, I think the problem that Pete Rose has is that they had signs in all the dugouts about gambling on the sport. That the sign was right there in all the dugouts. It was in all the spring training facilities, and that's, I think, where he got in trouble, because he admitted it, and he belongs in the Hall of Fame if you're looking at his numbers. He deserves it. He's one of the best hitters of all time. But I think the thing that hurts him, personally, if it was me, his numbers, I think that's Hall of Fame numbers. But the problem was that he broke a rule that where it's plastered all over the locker rooms and the dugouts all over baseball, and has been since the Black Sox.
Go ahead. 9 o'clock before we leave. We'll be done at 9.
The Black Sox scandal in 1919. That's when they started all this. Kennesaw Mountain Landis was the commissioner. He became the commissioner of baseball, cleaned everything up, and they put that sign up everywhere. And I think that's where he messed up, because he saw the sign every day and he kept on gambling.
Brad, this is a great question, real question. If Manley was a Blue Jay, would we even argue the Hall of Fame? I'm thinking you would say we wouldn't even be talking about him for the Hall of Fame. I would, because I hate the Yankees. I love Don Manley is a great, and I don't care if he would have played for
forever.
Yeah, I don't care whoever he played for. I like Donnie baseball. I got to go see him play in Baltimore in the old Memorial. I was so happy. I got that team was awesome. Had him, Winfield, Boggs. I was so happy. But I got to see Donnie, and we sat on the first base side, right? So it was awesome. And like James here, he says I'll take his word for it. James is knowledgeable. Manley has the same numbers as Puckett. And Puckett we know Puckett deserves to be in there. He is just, Puckett was such a great player.
Well, see, that's the problem is not, you can't put everybody in
right
there, and you got to draw the line somewhere. The problem I have is that sometimes the line moves. The line moves, so you got some guys that I don't think are as good as the guys that aren't in there.
There's a difference between good and great, and it's been blurred.
That's another point. There are very good players, and then there are great players.
Well, I mean, that's like, the Philly, that Mike and all them. I mean, I'm upset with them too, and I'm so bad that I'm losing his name right now. They started with the Phillies.
Dick Allen.
Dick Allen. There you go. He should be in, no question, right?
He went from the Phillies to the White Sox.
Right, and but he was a great power hitter. He was right there with Hank Aaron, right? I mean, he was like one of the greats, and he doesn't get much help. Calvin really got caught betting on NFL. Wow, everything just went crazy here.
Yeah, he did. Calvin Ridley is paying the price for it right now, too, with the suspension.
He got suspended
and
this season.
Nobody's voting him into the Hall of Fame either. That's what.
But, I mean, he got caught. He'll be back. The real reason Pete Rose is out is because he wouldn't admit to it, and him and the commissioner don't like each other at the time, and there's a commissioner agreement that they're all going to uphold it. And what's going to happen is the poor man's going to pass away, and they're going to do it afterwards, which does nobody any good. Who cares?
Look at Shoeless Joe Jackson. That's the only reason they never overturned him.
Right.
And I heard it's my same thing. Yeah.
Right. Hold
Yeah,
on.
because all those guys were found not guilty. Back in
And they all said he had nothing to do with,
He
and
didn't.
with the stats he had in the series, how did he throw a game? I'd
Yeah.
love to throw a game with those stats. I did not realize his home is where the Greenville, South Carolina minor league ballpark is.
Right.
And I'm going to make me a trip down there. I never realized that until not long ago. And I'm going to make me a trip down there to go look at it. And they've got it set up like when he lived in it, him and his wife. And
you're right, Paige. Us just talking about it, we know Pete Rose ball's in it. But there's people out there that don't, and this is where the fun comes in. As long as everybody keeps their mind about it, you know. My dad believes that Bonds. He thinks that Bonds should not be in. I do think he should be in.
Well, if they're forgiving student loans, then they need to forgive him.
So there's always opinions to this, and that's what makes this part of the game fun. That's why I hate, you know, I love baseball stories. So when they put in, you know, the cameras and all that, a lot of the stories go away. Like the year, you know, we watched a no-hitter because a bumble play at first base by an umpire that, you know, Stevie Wonder would have called him out, and the umpire called him safe and cost the young man you know, a perfect game, or not a perfect game, but a no-hitter. You know, so, but now that story would be lost to just, and then it got overturned. I feel bad for that person, but, you know.
Gene must have heard what I said.
Yeah, he heard you.
I said if they're forgiving student debt, then they do forgive Pete Rose.
They don't think they're going to do it afterwards. They shouldn't.
I don't think they will. Because I don't think, even if they keep changing commissioners.
Boston kid, you made a great point with pitching to those greats. Just to let you know.
I just don't think it's going to happen. I think one day down the road, maybe Bonds and Clemens and some of the other the guys that went on the juice and got a whole lot better and bigger and stronger and all that. You look at a picture of Bonds when he was 10 years younger. I mean, you could put rope on him and fly him in a Macy's parade. He was so big. I mean, it was ridiculous.
This is my right. The first person was cheating on stealing signs when the first sign got put down, right? On the sign.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't winning.
Cheating started. You know, any way to get ahead in any sport, and then when you put money in there, look at our hobby. You know, there's always somebody trying to do fake stuff or get by with something. But look how much money's in it now, and look how much it's a daily basis we hear something. So whenever there's that much money involved, I mean, it just in egos.
Hey, Boston
James,
kid.
This eats James up. I know. I heard about this. Listen, Ortiz just got in, so where does that leave Bonds, Clemens, etc.?
Exactly what your dad said.
Yeah, so, you know, James, you and my dad would get along great. I love to sit y'all down at that table and just sit there and listen to y'all.
I got a motion on the floor. There's a motion on the floor, and I'm calling for a vote.
Put them two in.
No, to have your dad to be on here moving forward. Can I get a yay? All yay. Say yay in the chat. I've learned some stuff.
Reggie Smith's one of those guys that I think he gets overlooked because he just played so many different places. You know, I remember Reggie Smith, and Nats Man brought up a great person last night, which we haven't even talked about. Reggie Jackson, really? I mean, this guy moved around every time the rent was due, and I mean, you know, people even forget or want to fight you that he was a Baltimore Oriole, right? He was an Oriole for half a season.
Right.
I know he was. So,
hang on.
You know,
I'll be right back.
It's just, you know.
He became a big shot when he got to New York.
Right. But when he was with the Angels, he was good. A's, he was Reggie. But when he was Mr. October, that was in New York.
That's what got him in the Hall of Fame.
Right, probably so. In all those years. There you go. Yep. And I mean, I have an Orioles helmet that he signed, and me and him laughed about it. What is that? Okay, what you got here, Paige? My Marine senior drill instructor used to say, "Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat." Okay, yeah, I can tell you this. My first day of football practice in high school, they taught us how to hold without getting caught. So it's just part of it. It's of any sport, wherever you can get an edge and not really hurt the other person. It's just the way it is.
I got to
I'm
look
Eddie
at
Guerrero fan for life.
it's a Boston Kids comment. Boston Kids comment. Love my '64 Roger Maris.
Who's that?
At 8:47 p.m. Bought the Boston Kid. I like this dude.
Yeah, he's brought up some great comments tonight, Boston.
I actually sold mine.
Boston, I don't know if you've been here before, but welcome to my channel, and I'm loving your comments tonight. Hope we get to hear more from you, and we might get together and have you on one night, brother. Talk about some old school. Yeah, golf is the only sport where you're expected to call your own penalty on yourself.
And you're actually playing yourself.
And they still try to get away with stuff on there, too, I can tell you.
Come play golf with me. I'll sit the first 9 out and the back 9 out and have a drink.
Sit at 19. Do you guys think the stigma around Jose Altuve cheating will hurt his chances at the Hall of Fame?
I don't think he'll get in the Hall of Fame.
I don't think that question is going to. He's going to have to. He's a very exceptional player. But
let me tell you, everybody on that team at that time, coaches, managers, I don't care who they are, they're going to have problems when it comes to that, because there's going to be some of the writers who are going to vote against them. I mean,
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%.
In the polo grounds in the old days with the Giants, they had a guy sitting out above it was 445 feet to center field. They had a guy above the wall with a telescope, and he would catch the signs and had a telephone and would call the dugout and tell them the pitch was coming. He'd sit there with the phone off the hook and talk to them on the phone. So I mean, they've been doing it forever, but that was such an egregious violation of it that. And when they got caught, they tried to cover it up, and the cover-up's always worse than the crime usually. So I have a feeling, and I mean, I'm like you. I don't know if Altuve's going to make it.
Yeah, most nobody remembers Griffey. I remember Griffey on the White Sox, but I love just like you, Bobbles. I love Griffey and Ricky Henderson playing on 9 different teams. I want to tell you right now, if you're a Ricky Henderson fan, there is a figure out there, and they have all 9 hats on the figure. It's a short print figure. I think it's I can't remember the guy's name that used to do the figures, but it's out there. I've seen it at a show.
And I met somebody that's an avid bobblehead fan, is about as bad as he is. I need to get them connected. I think somebody asked me a question.
I don't think Beltran has got a shot. I don't think he is a Hall of Fame guy.
Hey, Don, reference your question, the card I sold. I sold my Maris card. I had an offer I could not turn down. I said that was probably a casket card. But it was, you know how it is. Somebody offers you something, you can't. I couldn't walk away from it.
Everything's got a price.
Also,
yes, sir.
On here, what's your opinion on Ohtani, the face of MLB, yet or someday? An only player like that since Babe Ruth. You think Ohtani could be the face, or?
Yeah, let's get Dad's opinion.
There's 2 problems with Ohtani being the face of baseball. One, Same thing we talked about earlier. He's on the West Coast. 2, he's foreign. He's Japanese. Now,
Ichiro would have.
What I'm saying, but see, Ichiro was here for a little while before they tried to make him, and he wasn't the face of baseball, but he was a great player. With Ohtani, the thing is, we have a lot of Hispanic players in baseball, and we have for quite a few years. The Japanese players have just been over in the last 25, 30 years, and not that many. So now you have this guy out there playing. If he was in New York, oh yeah. If he was in New York playing for the Yankees or the Mets, he would be the face of the sport. But I don't think being out there on the West Coast and being a Japanese guy, I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, I know for Javi last year at the National was hot. I mean, blazing hot. I was with people selling them, trading them for, rookie, Clemente. Me and Mike O. Hot. And this year, not hot. But
one thing about Ohtani is the thing that he does different than Ruth. Ruth only pitched and hit a couple of years. Then he went strictly to the outfield. Ohtani, I think he's going to do that for quite a while. I think he's going to pitch and hit. And I think he's going to do that for quite a while.
He's got to sign a contract that kind of puts him in one of those. That Orioles card is an 88 score, if you're thinking, Don. 1988, not 1888. You got to preference that with Don because, he likes some old school cards. Yeah, James. And plus, he's on a team that's terrible. Yeah, me and Dad were talking about that tonight, how the Angels we watched Trout hit one, rocket, the meteoric rocket that he hits. So
going to the Angels is like being on the Sports Illustrated cover preseason prediction as a champion.
They don't have any pitching, man. That is.
Somebody just asked the question. Colorado Sports.
Yeah, we'll put it on there. Edwin Jackson played on 14 major league teams. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, the pitcher.
Yeah,
he pitched for the Nationals one year.
Yeah, or who's the best fielder you've seen? Ozzie Smith, Brooks Robinson, or someone else you've seen play?
Wow, that's a tough question because I've seen a lot of great players. I saw Pee Wee Reese. I saw Phil Rizzuto. I've seen a lot of. I'll tell you, there was a guy that played for the Indians and then for the White Sox. He was a shortstop, and his name was Chico Carrasquel. And he was one of the best fielding players I've ever seen. But if I had to pick a shortstop for fielding, it'd be Ozzie.
Mm-hmm.
It would be Ozzie. I mean, he was just phenomenal, and he could hit a little bit too. But I mean, he was phenomenal. Brooks, yeah, he was a great fielder, but to me, he was a better third baseman than a shortstop. And the shortstops are a little more athletic. That's why on your little league team, your best players are usually the shortstop, and then when he's not playing shortstop, he's a pitcher.
Yeah, this is Staven. This is great. Yeah, hopefully, the Mets sold, and then they just put fire in. And if they can get another owner like the Mets have now, that would be great because the Angels front office is just the worst by far in baseball.
Well, it's not that they don't want to spend money. They spend money, but they spend it on the wrong guys.
Yeah.
Or there's something happens and they get jinxed kind of deal.
Yeah, DH. Yeah, Reese. DH is tough for, Big Papi was such a folk hero.
That's why I got in.
Right. And also Edgar Martinez was like that with the Mariners. And in Seattle, he was a god there. So, but he would. Yeah, rest of the country didn't know much about Edgar. Nettles at third. Yeah, I don't know. I tell you what, Machado at third right now. There's some great third basemen right now in the game. Arenado, Zimmerman at his best was awesome.
At his best.
Before he had his shoulder problems. We watched him and David Wright face off, and
Washington sat on third base,
Mhm.
and both of them made you can do that, I can do it better against each other in a game. I got chills right now thinking about it.
Well, my wife and I saw Brooks Robinson make a couple of plays at third base in Baltimore that just I guess the only other person that might be able to make that play was Mike Schmidt.
Yeah,
Those Brooks Robinson made 2 plays in one game that just were phenomenal. And I mean, it's just, and Mike Schmidt's the only other one I've ever seen come close to that.
all right.
That kid in Atlanta right now might wind up being
Austin.
one of the best.
Yeah, not only can he flash it, but he can hit it too. So I got a question. Paige has a question for you. Who do you remember a player that acted like Manny Ramirez, Manny being Manny, back in the day? Was there anybody that you could think of that, like when you say back in the day, are you saying before? Because you had the Birdman and you had some guys in the 70s that were kind of flaky.
Jimmy Pearsall.
Pearsall.
Jimmy Pearsall was a center fielder for the Boston Red Sox, and they'd have to stop a game sometimes because he'd be sitting down in center field crying.
Wow.
He had a lot of mental problems. And
It seems like back in the day, like I guess the real golden age of baseball, they had a lot of more control, I guess, over the players' conduct. They were expected to wear a jacket and tie, how to behave in public while working to and from, games and stuff. Now, what they did in their private time, they would keep hid unless you were, a drunkard or something and it got out, somebody let something out of
A lot of the guys back then, too, they did things like that, like Babe Ruth did. I mean, a lot of the players did, but the newspaper people didn't put it in the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everybody's got a camera in their pocket, so if anybody goes out and gets, drunk, they're going to have it on, it's going to be on YouTube. So, but back then, the guys that covered the Yankees, they never put that in the paper because it would hurt the team. So they didn't do it. Plus, back then, the managers could call the shots. Now, in all pro sports, you have millionaires telling billionaires what to do. I mean,
you see, how about the fact that there's only 38 players in MLB history that play more games in their entire career than Cal Ripken played in a row? And I want to say this about Ripken. I think he is drastically underpriced in our hobby. I really do.
And Ripken's one of the greatest players that ever played, just for his long, not only for his longevity, but the guy was still playing at a high level at the end of that streak.
Yeah, and the knowledge and just everything that he gave to the game.
Now, see, he was a great shortstop and then became a great third baseman. That's who I was talking about. Cal Ripken. I said Brooks. I was wrong.
Okay.
I saw Brooks Robinson play, but he, of course, never played short.
Right.
I can say I got to see him play at Charlotte.
I was like, maybe one game he did.
No, Cal Ripken. He was the one my wife and I saw make those 2 plays at third base that were just phenomenal.
Didn't Gorman Thomas tie flies to a fly fishing in the dugout? There's no telling what those old timers.
All left-handed pitchers were nuts. Bill, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him, Bill Lee, who used to pitch. I think he pitched for the Red Sox for a while. That guy was nuts. And I mean, he was always doing crazy stuff. Of course, if it was somebody just being funny, it was Yogi.
Right, Yogi
and Casey Stengel. If you ever heard a conversation between those two, you had no idea what they were talking about.
They said Yogi loved to have fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, Yogi was down to earth. I mean, the one thing I liked about he called his wife. They were playing the St. Louis Browns, and he called her from St. Louis and asked how the kids were doing, and she said, "I took them to." No, I'm not sorry. He was playing Kansas City, and he called her, and she said, "Well, I took the kids to see Dr. Zhivago," and he said, "Well, what's wrong with them now?" He thought it was a real doctor. I mean, but that's the way Yogi was.
That's a classic movie for those that don't know.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. This is my dad can go all night, and y'all keep egging him on. He will. And I love
this has been fun.
I can sit here and listen to my dad. This is the reason why I love baseball.
my mom is the reason why I collect, and my dad's the reason why I love baseball. So, uh, Clemente, you hear me talk about him, it's because of these stories like this.
Yeah, Clemente was Duke Snyder was my favorite player as a kid. I was a Brooklyn Dodger fan, and then I followed when they went to the West Coast. I followed Koufax. Koufax became my favorite player, and then after that, I said I got to find somebody on the East Coast, and I started. And I liked the Pirates the way they played, and I always loved Clemente. Clemente still like probably had the best arm in right field ever. He and Rocky Colavito. These young guys on here going, who these dudes?
No, James.
Nah,
he'll be right there with you. Oh, man, these guys. There's some here that collect, and
they collect the cars, and they know.
They know the history. Don is Reese. These guys, they know their stuff. They love hearing these stories too because they're hearing it from a guy that was there, not reading it from pages.
Well, I mean, I saw Al Kaline play.
Right.
I saw Ralph Kiner play.
Yeah.
You know, I saw these guys. I saw these guys play on television, and it's just.
Yeah. So anyway, I thank everybody again. I appreciate. I know, we're getting into the sports season, and every Sunday you're going to hear me be very appreciative. We're going to be going against Sunday Night Football and baseball and everything else in the playoffs. So I really appreciate it. Love having my dad on. Me and him will be at the Chantilly show in October. I hope to see a lot of y'all there. Hopefully we'll have Natsman there with us. Him and his wife, I believe, are coming up. And we'll have Bobbles and some of his crew there. Should be a good time. So until next Wednesday, I'm sorry to not do anything this Saturday, but Wednesday I probably will be doing, I think, an SGC reveal. And we'll see from there. Hopefully I have a cool piece to show y'all next Saturday. So until next time, like, share, subscribe. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Thanks for all the new watchers. Tonight, thank you for all the, people in the chat made this awesome. So until next time, see ya.
Peace.